Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler here with the OBX wave report, looking at the washed out and blown out stands of the OBX Pro. You can see that high tide line there right near the sand dunes as Tropical Storm Idalia pushes some huge swells onshore here. Swells offshore in the range of 10 to 14 feet, onshore waves breaking likely anywhere between 5 to 10 foot, possibly larger. When you get out beyond the pier here at 1,000 feet, waves in the range of about 8 feet at least. So very large waves here breaking on the Outer Banks with these 40 mile per hour or higher winds gusting out of the northeast. I've got myself in the lee of the pier as we watch these massive rollers break. I'm not going to go beach by beach for the comprehensive wave report. Just suffice it to say that waves in the range of about 4 to 10 feet or higher at many of the beaches. Very rough, very stormy, and conditions likely to continue throughout the day as Idalia is moving offshore rather slowly. Did want to provide some information. Storm surge here in the Outer Banks likely in the range of about 1 to 3 foot, so we're expecting to see some beach erosion and possible overwash in some of the lower lying areas, possible road flooding in some of the lower lying areas with those strong northeasterly winds at the time of high tide. Did have a unpleasant surprise down in Charleston earlier today with a 9.2 foot above normal water level, which generated pretty severe flooding throughout Charleston. And we don't have full reports of the damage for Idalia making landfall in Florida. Hopefully initial reports of the damage being not as bad as feared are borne out. All right, so let's get down to the reports from the National Hurricane Center. Actually, before we do that, just like to note that conditions in the ocean today are very dangerous. So not many surfers out, only really the most experienced could handle all these vicious conditions, dangerous storm conditions today, and conditions likely to continue throughout the evening tonight, calming down a bit tomorrow, and by Saturday likely returning to something more similar to normal. But right now we've got full tropical storm conditions in effect with these heavy rollers and with the water washing up onto shore much higher than typical due to the storm surge that we are seeing here, even at low tide. It looks like we're about low tide right now. Okay, let's get the data from the National Hurricane Center provided to us by our friendly scientists over at the National Hurricane Center. Right now, Idalia at 60 mile per hour storm, moving east off of about Wilmington, expected to remain a tropical storm as it slowly moves east, and is expected to continue to hurl these pretty severe conditions at the Outer Banks throughout the day. Conditions to steadily abate as we head on into evening and tomorrow. East of Idalia, we have Franklin as a 100 mile per hour storm heading to the northeast away from Bermuda, and Franklin is expected to become extratropical by Saturday as it heads east of Newfoundland and then up toward the far northeastern Atlantic. Jose, a 40 mile per hour tropical storm to the southeast of Franklin, is moving to the north toward Franklin and is expected to be absorbed by Franklin. So we've just got all sorts of pinwheeling weather system storms out here in the North Atlantic. North Atlantic Ocean being much hotter than normal. So conditions, of course, driven by climate crisis, which is in turn driven by fossil fuel burning. And then in addition to those 4 tropical cyclones, named tropical cyclones, we have 2 areas of disturbed weather with a potential of developing into a tropical cyclone. One is in the eastern tropical Atlantic, a disturbance steadily moving to the west across the tropical Atlantic, which has a 70% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone over the next 48 hours. And then last of all, we have a disturbance in the central tropical Atlantic with a 30% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. It is worth noting that the tropics have been very active, and here in the Outer Banks we've enjoyed some good wave conditions as a result, but we should be very clear that the North Atlantic Ocean being so hot is a dangerous situation driven by climate crisis. This year we would tend to see less storms because of El Nino increasing wind shear, but we have not seen a lower number of storms. In fact, with Jose, we see the hurricane season at above average ranges, which is kind of chilling in the hot weather that we've seen. So I did not mention my usual appeal, so for today we're going to drive the message home that the more frequent, more powerful storms are driven by climate crisis, which is in turn driven by fossil fuel burning. And we'll just ask you guys again to please help do everything you can to speed the transition to clean energy, which will help protect our coastlines from the impacts of climate change, which include more severe tropical storms, more severe storms in general, rising sea levels, which make the unexpected severe flooding that we saw in Charleston today more likely, ocean heat waves, which threaten and harm our ocean environment and all the sea life that we love and rely on, and also ocean acidification, which threatens sea life as well as our coral reefs, which those of us who love to surf really rely on as well, and which so much life in the ocean also relies on. All right, so thank you for joining me for this tropical storm session of the OBX wave report as we look at this almost endless field of white and gray as these tall, powerful rollers come in across the OBX.